Hey Flosstube, it's Lori of Mischievous Stitches. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is safe and well. It seems like our world has been turned upside down in the past couple of weeks, and we're all adjusting to the mandates being put out to keep ourselves safe, and in keeping ourselves safe, we're also keeping other people well, safe and well as well. My husband and I are actually enjoying being home and social distancing. We're getting a lot of little chores done around the house that we've put off, you know, in the everyday hustle and bustle of life, the rush and go and do that. I just find I'm enjoying being home and catching up on things. So we've done a few, like I said, a few projects around the house, and you can probably hear in the background lawnmowers and things running. My neighbors are doing the same thing. We're still waving as we go by, but we're not visiting in the middle of the street like normal with each other. But it seems like everyone's doing about the same thing. They're staying indoors, staying home. When we travel into town, our little town here, to say buy groceries, it's amazing to me how few people are on the road, which is a great thing. But at the same time, it feels like it's a ghost town. We usually go into town about 2 or 3 times a week. We try to get groceries about once a week, and then I still have my therapy appointments, which are going great, by the way. I've got a lot of use has come back into my hand, which I'm thankful for. But we go into town for the appointments, and of course I'm screened over the phone the day prior to the appointment, and then when I get there, they don't allow people to attend your visits with you. They don't allow you to wait in the waiting room. So it seems like everyone around me in my little sphere of my little area of the world, my little corner, that everyone's doing everything possible to keep us safe. So I've had stitching time, but not really taken stitching time. Unfortunately, almost 2 weeks ago, I lost my father. As I've shared before on past videos, he was diagnosed with cancer about 1.5 years ago now, and my sister and I took care of him for several months in her home, and I'm sad, but at the same time, he's not suffering anymore. At the end, he at first he took treatments, and then he decided no more treatments. He refused to take medications, pain medications, and so how he made it through that, or dealt with that. He didn't make it through it, but dealt with that. I don't know. Just a strong continence. Anyway, so even dealing with something like a funeral during this time, it was different. We had, at the time, we could have 10 people gather at a time, so we kept the funeral private, and we just ended up having just the immediate family there. We also asked for donations instead of, having people bring flowers, to keep that traffic out of the funeral home. And of course, usually in a time like that, I don't know about all areas, but the churches and the neighbors rally together, and they feed the family and whatever family member's home that they're gathering at. The family is gathering in after the services, and just to mourn, we're fed. And there was none of that. The churches that different family members attend usually feed, and we did none of that. So to help, once again, with spreading the virus, it even come into our world with that. So, of course, we were fine. Like I said, it's just like a new norm. I hope it's not a norm. I hope it's a temporary thing. But like like I said, everyone's doing their part in whatever life is coming at them during this time, is doing their part to keep themselves and those around them safe and healthy. So let's move on to my stitching. I don't have as much to show as I would have. Like I said, just making sure we were with our dad in the past, his last few days. And one more thing about that, I was honored because that man was there when I took my first breath, and I was holding his hand when he took his last. It was very peaceful. He was surrounded by family, and he didn't walk that last step alone. So that brought me peace and comfort to share that time with him, but also with my family. So in the past few weeks, I've not gotten a lot of stitching done. I was a little stressed buying, I think, so I've got a few things to show, but I'm going to get into that now. Let's get past the sad parts. I've continued to work on Barbara Anna, the fall. I downloaded this online, that's why it's like that, and I just have it in a 3-ring binder in the sleeves like this. And because it's multiple pages, I just put it on my pattern holder and stitch from it. But this is the pattern. And last night, thankfully, I'm done with the words. So this is stitched with DMC threads, the call for DMC threads on 40 count. Picture this plus Wren. And of course, this is telling the story of the fall of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. So last night I was able to finish up page 3, and it's there on your right, and I worked down into some of the loose motif there in the bottom. And so I finished the tree and a bird, and I've started on a tiny little house and some kind of outbuilding to this, I don't know whether it's a manor or, it's not a reproduction sampler. So there's a house there. I don't know whether it's the smokehouse or an ice house or a servant's home. But I've kidded around that, I've went from scribe work to bricklaying to scribe work. And yesterday I worked on horticulture here with the trees. This crown here is the start of a lady, and I'm looking forward to working on her. I hope to finish this house tonight or today, and then work on her in the next couple of days and have her finished by the weekend. I may pop back in with y'all on the weekend too. I just had a little bit to share, and I wanted to pop on since I've got a few spare minutes. Also, I made a start Saturday, a very small start on, let me get the pattern picture. I'm sorry, I didn't have this ready before I started. Here it is. This is Alphabet Zoo by Blue Ribbon Designs. And I'm starting this for my new grandbaby that will be coming in September, which is also my father's birth month. We don't know the gender of the baby, and it really doesn't matter as long as that baby's healthy. But I didn't want to go with, the call for was darker here, but the call for was cranberry. And I guess it could go either way, but I decided to go with a more gender neutral. And, sorry, going with DMC 3362. And this is my small start. So I've got A, and of course 26 letters, so there'll be 26 squares. Or will it 26? No, there's going to be 4 times 5, 20. So there'll be some squares that have multiple letters in there. But of course this will have alligator, aardvark, armadillo, and ants in it. So you can see maybe this tiny little ant, I've stitched one. And the A here, the large letters are all done in Smyrna crosses, but all the other stitches are just regular cross stitches. I'm using one strand of thread over 2 linen threads on 40 count platinum linen, which once again, that's my favorite, my go-to linen. And I'll just put that back in there later so I don't rustle it around, since I may work on it in a minute. And I'm just going to show you, I've continued to use my book of days to keep track of my stitching. For March, you can see I'm just using stickers. I think I've shown that before. I'm just using stickers to mark what days I actually stitch. So you can see here I actually started this piece on the 28th. So the shamrocks are for the fall, and then the little duckies are for the baby's piece. And so you see I've only worked on it 2 days, but all these missing days here just times I've just spent the whole day with Daddy. And so this is where I'm at. So I've done a lot of stitching this year. So, well, not this year. I didn't do much in January. I stitched every day in February. And hopefully I can get a lot of stitching done in April so I can finish the fall and focus specifically on the baby's alphabet zoo. And here is just some haul and some things that I've kitted up. This is a sampler that I saw my friend Karen from Arizona. She's Karen AZ on Instagram. She came down. She has a sister that lives here near me, so when she visits her sister, I usually meet up with her and we'll have a day, and we may stitch and we may just grab a bite to eat or shopping. This year we went shopping and she went bowling with us. But she was stitching on this piece, and then I also saw it featured on Julie McConnell, Reflections and Needlework, one of her videos this past year where she showed one of her customers stitching it, and it is the Mexican Sampler by Needlework Press. This does not do it justice at all, the picture. After seeing Karen's, and I mentioned Karen because Karen passed her pattern on to me. And I had saw Karen stitching, but she had very little of it stitched, and then seeing the customer of Julie's piece had worked in here, and it was absolutely beautiful. So Karen passed this to me, and this is summer khaki. I'm going to stitch it on summer khaki linen, 40 count. I do not have the threads yet. I've not pulled them, but when I do purchase the threads, I'll make sure I do a quick picture for Instagram so you all can see. I just love to pull the threads and do floss tosses on the fabric. It gives me a mind's eye view of exactly what I'm going to see. So there's that one. And this is one that I had seen on Etsy and had favorited on Etsy some time back. And when I went back to get it and remembered about it, I couldn't find it. Well, I'm browsing Etsy a couple weeks ago, and I found it. And it's just Queen Elizabeth I, just her name. But I loved it. It's simple. I love Tudor history. It just blew all my horns, and I'd have it. So there's this, and I downloaded it, and I think there's the seller, and I think they're located in Texas. And I saw this one on in Etsy as well. This is Lindsey Lane Designs, and it's For Your Party. It's actually a French name, but it has the translation here. And this one is just different. It's so different. I love this motif right here. I usually like things with more symmetry than this. And the picture that I saw on Etsy it showed as the fabric being more buttery, creamy yellow, which I really like. And I think when I order and choose fabric, instead of going for the called for, which is, well, I don't know that it says, it just says 40 count. But anyway, I will probably make my own choice of fabric. I did get there's a couple of pieces from Market, just two. And of course my favorite designer is, one of my favorite is Lottie Da, Lori Markovich. And this is Little Summer Sampler. I love those grays and blues. A little bit of gold. It's going to be a beautiful piece. It's not very big. It's 118 by 118 stitches. And it's stitched with Wheat Style Works on 40 count pecan butter by Lakeside Linen. There's only 4 colors in there. So what I've also been doing was, when I finish up the samplers, I seem to always have a little extra linen. And when I cut that off, I have been finding smalls and kitting those up for this coming year. I've played around with doing Mania with it, but my goal this year was to get my whip number down, and if I join Mania, that's not going to happen. So I may just have a year of littles next year. And I know it's only March, but you know, I'm kidding ahead. I also got this piece, and this is Heartstring Samplery. This was a piece that Beth Twist did in conjunction with Paulette Stewart. So there is another half of this motif on Paulette Stewart's version, where these two can be stitched and joined together, much like the berry bowls that's design that both Beth Twist and Tanya Brockmeyer of Scarlet House Designs did together as well. And I love Paulette's designs as well, but it was the colors in Beth's piece that really drew me in, so I got hers first. And because no piece can travel alone, I also ordered this one, Marianne Blackburn, when I picked up those two pieces. Really love the sampler, but we know how Blackbird is with the samplers. They don't always complete the entire sampler. They do portions of the sampler. And so, but this one is actually the entire sampler, which isn't, like I said, isn't always what they do. They usually take small areas, small motifs from the piece, and they make other pieces from it. Like there's the bird, or a bird, but it's not the bird in the piece. That looks like a turkey. Is it a peacock? Must be a peacock. But there's several pieces in here. I really like that one. I love the exaggerated, I'm assuming that's a tulip, but I love the exaggerated length of it, which is also in the sampler as well. I need to find another one. So once again, the little bird. It shows several different, a couple of different photographs of that. And I picked up from Queenstown Sampler. This is AR 1879. This piece has 3 colors in it. It's primarily a red work piece, excuse me. That's just pollen. The pine trees here are dropping pollen in buckets in my backyard. So for the most part, we've kept our windows closed, because when you go outside, yesterday it was like there was a haze in the air, so we're supposed to be expecting rain today. That's been moving from the west towards the east, and hopefully it'll knock a lot of that pollen out of the air. But okay, but everything's so beautiful and green, and the birds are just singing. And I've got an American bluebird that is nesting in last summer. I'm way off top of it. Last summer, when Jacob was home, I found a roadside place in North Georgia that was selling gourds that the lady had painted and made into birdhouses. And so I bought 3, and one was an acorn, and another was a tomato, painted as a tomato, and one was a beehive. And the American bluebird is actually nesting inside the acorn. So I can sit in my kitchen in the morning at my island and look out the window and see mama or daddy or both in and out of the gourd putting, bringing pine needles and twigs and things to nest in there, and I absolutely love it. I also have 2 more nests. One is right outside the window here in a bush I have there, and one is as I go out my garage. If I walk around, our trash can is located on the other side of the garage, so if I go out of my garage to take trash out and I pass by that bush, I have to be very careful because Mom will dive bomb me as I'm coming around that corner. And they've been nesting in that bush for some time, birds have. And when my kids were small, I would always have to warn them, don't bother those babies, don't bother those eggs, we don't want to scare Mama away. So anyway, I love having those birds nesting around me. But anyway, back to this. I just like this. I like the different size or the different fonts for the alphabet, the tiny little Christian motifs, the baskets, flower baskets. Love it. Love it. I also picked up G Leisure, $18.98 from Reflets de Soie. I'm loving this. This house is so unique. I think I bought a piece of mocha for this one. Is it mocha? No, I'm not sure. Vintage Country Mocha, 40 count, Zweigert, Newcastle. Excuse me again. So I'm looking forward to starting this one. I do believe this will be a this year start. There was some gentle teasing with one of my Flosstube friends here about this piece, and throwing around a little bit with her and another stitcher about possibly a stitch along, but past the teasing in the comments on the Instagram post, there's not been much other talk of it, but I really, really like this one. Once again, the exaggerated size of these fruit and just the colors. I can't wait to get the threads in to see what the palette will be like, but I really like this one. And then in one of my previous videos, I shared with you that I had a stitch friend, that had passed away from cancer, and her cousin, which is another stitch friend, had pulled this piece out, and our friend Sharon had started it and had stitched a couple of the letters. And when we got together last month, I got a chance to stitch a square on this piece, and I had always wanted it and just never had bought it, and so stitching on that piece made me go out and order it. And this is alphabet blocks. This is by Carriage Samplers, which once again is one of my favorite designers. I think Kathy Barrick was one half of this, but I love this piece. And if I'm not mistaken, this piece is hanging on the wall behind Jen of Quirks and Stitches framed. But I really like this piece. And on my friend's piece, I actually stitched this letter, and then Nancy actually changed these 2 blocks to be her name, a small memorial saying, and her birth and death dates. And it was a beautiful piece. I love the thought of so many of her fellow friends that are stitchers and herself actually stitching on that piece. I think it's beautiful. And then I also ordered this one. I had a lot of response. I'm sorry for the noise. I think everybody's lawn guy's out today, because that's definitely not just a regular lawnmower. But anyway, so Primrose Needleworks. This is 272 words. So this is the Gettysburg Address. I had showed in a previous video this year my finish on, it was Erica Michael's design that has been re-released, and it was 2 quotes from Abraham Lincoln addresses. So this is another one that I wanted. It's a big piece. It's actually 21.5 by 23.5 finished. It's 349 stitches wide by 375. This actually goes with Alphabet Zoo. It doesn't go with here. This one actually has 6 different colors, Gentle Arts or DMC. I don't know when I'll start this, but I have a plan to change Jacob's room to a patriotic room. His walls are already gray, and I'm just probably going to decorate it in shades of blue and red, and then have their military pictures or military pictures from different ones in my family to include my son-in-law and Jacob, and then this. And digging through my things, I actually found this one, and I'm wanting to kit it up. Like I said, I'm trying not to buy. I'm trying to kit what I have. This is Isabella Johnstone Sampler. I know many of you have seen this one before. Needlework Press. It's all about a cow with this one. It's all about a cow. Red and white cow. I love it. This one's been out for some time. I had saw it on someone's blog. That's how long ago it was, years ago. And I think it had come out in a Sampler and Antique Needlework Quarterly. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And a lot of ladies were stitching it, and I saw it, and of course I never got the magazine, but now I have the pattern. And I ordered this from Teresa Kit Stitcher. And then recently I was enabled by Lori, textilist, and this is a little thread holder, and it's from Caddy Cross Stitches, and I just got a small one to see. Let me let you see the fabric. I do love it, but I don't want to use it. This is the fabric that I chose, and of course, you know, cross stitch. And it's just a small little piece. You can put your threads on here. If you're like me, you sit them to the side and you get up and you can't find them, and you know they've fallen off of your pants in the bathroom, or they're stuck to your shirt somewhere. But this is a piece of felt, and then she has a little, excuse me one more time, she has a little tag here that has her name, and it's Caddy Cross Stitches, and there's a magnet under there to hold your needle. So this can lay beside you on the table, and your threads will not fall from it. They'll you know, the static will hold them there, and hold your needle as well while you're stitching. Neat little gadget. Really like it. And there must be a small piece of like cardstock or something a little bit stiffer than cardstock, because it's not very rigid, but it's not, there's something that's keeping it stiff in there. And one more thing, and I'll let you go. I received my, I'm sorry, like I said, I think everyone's getting their yards cut today. I'm too cheap, I cut my own. Clint cuts my yard, that's my yard boy. But this is Rose Quaker. I've shown this several times over the past few weeks because I've been monogamous stitching. I did this as a dedication to my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and her name was Emmeline Francis, and my mom is actually named after my grandmother, and my grandmother was named after her mother, so Francis is a name that passed down, that stopped with my mother. My mother did not name my sister or I Francis. I love the frame. You know, when you go somewhere and you're laying different things down, and then when the one that you know is the right one, this was it. I love my grandmother's name. I wish that I had given one of my daughters her name. But every one of my children do have a family name. Every one of them, Jacob has one of Clint's name, Chelsea has one of my names, and my oldest daughter Jordan is named after my sister. And I just love the thought of our names passing down through the generations. But anyway, so this is Rose Quaker. It's stitched on 40 count platinum linen, one thread over 2 linen threads with the called for DMC. And this was my grandmother's birth year. She's no longer with me, but she had a huge impact in my life. And this was just a little way to honor her, and makes it even more special. And then one other thing I'll share with you, hopefully this doesn't turn off. If it does, don't worry, it'll be on purpose. But this is one of the things that my dad wanted me to take off of his wall. And this is just a frame that he made when I was in like 10, 11. And my dad would go out our areas rich in American Indian history, and there are arrowheads in certain places. You can readily find them if you just look. And as a child, he would take me out in the woods, and we would